Hello everyone, and thank you so much for watching today's video. I really hope you enjoy it. Before we get started, I want to be able to provide a little bit of background because I think it's actually necessary for this video. Allow me to set the scene. One night I'm texting my best friend Gabby and we're talking about some of our favorite shows, and she tells me I need to start watching The Curious Creations of Christine McConnell on Netflix. And I'd recognized the name Christine because I had seen a few of her YouTube videos in my recommended page. And I was like, oh, I better start, watching these videos because Gabby tells me, you remind me so much of her and she's basically you from the future. I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot and check this out and see what she's talking about. I was absolutely blown away by her talent and creativity, and I instantly fell in love with this particular video of her showing how she makes these really, really cool aprons, and I loved the look of the apron, and that's when I knew I need to make this. The apron is made completely out of recycled materials, and I followed Christine's video to make it with some artistic liberties, of course, and I completely hand sewed it because I don't have a machine, nor do I know how to use one. Presenting from the mind of Shayna, Gabby, this video is for you, and I especially hope you love it. Thank you so much again for watching, and let's go ahead and try to make an apron. For the first step of this process, I needed to make patterns because I'm making this apron completely from scratch, and if I didn't use patterns, it would be a disaster. So I used some packaging from Amazon to make these, and I found this incredibly useful because my pins were able to pierce through the bubble wrap very easily. So what I did was I took my ruler and measured out the packaging for its length, and then used a Sharpie to trace out my measurements. I made these straps 2 inches wide, which was about the width of my ruler, and I made 2 lines half an inch inside of these lines so I could fold in the sides for a clean finish. I then cut this out, and this will now work as my strap, which I measured out to be the length that I wanted it to around my shoulders, and so I would be using it 3 times, which I marked on the back, and then I also marked that it would be used for my straps, and so my straps ended up coming out to 1 inch wide each after folding in the sides. Next, I'm working on creating the point, which will be the skirt of my apron. Again, if I didn't measure these things out or do some kind of mock-up, it would be an absolute disaster. So I'm especially glad I went ahead and did this because I was able to measure out a point that was even, and then I again cut that out and later used it for my skirt. And to make sure it's extra even, I went ahead and folded that in half because I didn't trust the dots I made. Here, as you can see, I'm pinning down my strap pattern and then tracing that out on my actual fabric that I'll be using for the straps. I also measured out my fold line so I know where to fold in the fabric. I traced out this pattern 3 times and then cut out 1 long strap. Now I'm just folding in the sides half of 1 inch and pinning those down so I can hand sew them. Now comes the bodice. For this, I just used the rest of the packaging from what I had cut out and used this to create the bodice top, which I wanted to be very, very pointed, as you can see. And I just cut that out, and I cut little slits at the top to create a clean finish and sewed that down. And now here I'm taking the straps, which I had already sewn, and pinning them down so I can place them on each side of the apron. Then with a needle and thread, I sewed those pieces together. Once I finished sewing this strap, I went ahead and made sure my other strap was all pinned up and then started stitching that one. Once I had that step repeated with the other strap by sewing it down, then I sewed it to the bodice, and here's the completed bodice. Now with the bodice all finished, here comes the skirt. So as you can see, I'm just using the point I had made with my pattern pieces earlier to kind of create a guideline and help me make the shape of a triangular skirt. Then I folded everything in to make the edges nice and clean and pinned those down to sew. I then hand sewed the skirt edges down to give it a nice clean finish, and I also gathered the waistline, which you will see here. And there's my finished skirt, all nice and pointy. I then measured out my waist and used the same steps I used to make a strap to create a waistband and sewed that down to be the length of my waist. And I just made this out of scrap material, really didn't measure it too much. And then I went ahead and used some hooks that I had to create a closing to close on the side of the apron, which I am demonstrating here. And the next step of this was pinning down the waistband where I wanted it to the bodice, and then next I will be sewing the waistband to the skirt. After having the bodice sewn down, I then pinned in the skirt, and here's what it looks like before it was sewn. And here's me wearing it once it's all sewn together. Unfortunately, it wouldn't fit in one shot, so there you go. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and happy December. I really hope you liked it, and thank you so much to my best friend Gabby for unintentionally inspiring this video. This apron was so much fun to make, and I'm not the best when it comes to hand sewing, but I'm actually really proud of this project, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll catch you next time.